Welcome back to Doulas No Squat Book Club. This week we are discussing Breastfeeding Without Birthing, a breastfeeding guide for mothers through adoption, surrogacy, and other special circumstances. We'll be covering topics including who is capable of breastfeeding and how to support those wishing to breastfeed. Thank you so much for joining us, and let's get ready to hear from some doulas who know squat.
So yeah, we're starting with the introduction. I wanted to go, well, first off, has anybody actually supported an adoptive or a surrogate mother, like an intended mother from surrogacy?
I have, but not through starting the breastfeeding journey. She intentionally did formula, so this is still new.
That was kind of what I was expecting, and so.
All
right, so we're starting out kind of with her defining who she's talking to here. And I feel like this is a very important place to start off, because whenever you are guiding a family through breastfeeding, everything is so unique to the situation, and how you present the material without it being overwhelming. You need to consider who you're talking to.
Okay.
And she even mentions in this introduction how whenever she was adopting, she read a book that was for people who have had breast reduction surgery, and how that impacts their milk supplies. And she got a lot of information from that, but it still wasn't directed toward her individually, and how that was missing. So she's talking about how she's specifically writing this book addressing adoptive mothers and intended mothers, mothers who are getting who are the intended mothers of surrogacy. But then there's also other mothers that could benefit from some of this information. So we have foster mother, non-gestational lesbian mother, relactating mother, an exclusively pumping mother. Is there any other type of situations that you guys can think of that where a mother or someone could be inducing lactation or might benefit from some of this information?
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's people that purposely relactate to breastfeed friends' babies and sisters' babies. Their own siblings, if their mother had been young and was continuing to have children at the same time that they're an appropriate age to be doing so. And then with the formula shortage, there were people that purposely relactated just to donate to people who, their children weren't allergic to breast milk, but they were on formula for other reasons. And so then they were able to still be fed. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely the relactating in order to donate is it came up a lot during that formula shortage. And I mean, before that you heard of it, but people really didn't do it. But it was coming up very frequently.
I could see that going an interesting route too in terms of health benefits for the mom.
Yeah.
Because it could have breast cancer. And I don't feel like a lot of people don't talk about that.
Yeah, and they should, because that's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it was get breast cancer.
Yeah, breast cancer, ovarian cancer.
Well, one thing that it's later on in here, but she mentions how if you are lactating because you haven't given birth to a baby, you haven't had a pregnancy, how breastfeeding could help reduce those cancer risks, because just by the fact of not ever getting pregnant, you're increasing your risk of certain cancers. And I just found it interesting, because I've never actually seen a book worded that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everyone, you'll see breastfeeding reduces your risk of this. And I was like, and being pregnant a certain amount of time, or more times you're pregnant, you can reduce certain risks of cancers, but everyone was like, everyone avoids that that topic of like, well, if you never get pregnant, are you increasing your risk? And
the answer is yes, you are.
And I was just like, it just surprised me because I've never seen one book that was that directly said that.
Yeah, it made me really happy to read that
Mhm.
because it's true,
Mhm.
and that's information that we need to be sharing with people, especially in a day and age where you're more likely to die of cancer than anything else.
Mhm. And then like you also see, I'm just like a fan of wording things the way they are.
Yeah, it's like talk about the other side of the coin. You can talk about the other side.
It's like what, like whenever people talk about the benefits of breastfeeding, instead of the risks of formula feeding, like we're afraid of people getting offended, but I mean, like there is a time and place for formula. That doesn't necessarily mean that we need to say that there are no risks to it, but there's risks to every decision that you make. It's just you weigh the risks of one thing versus the risks of the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
There can be like emotional risks to breastfeeding too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that, we work with, people, domestic violence shelters and teen moms. A lot of teen moms just don't want to breastfeed, very understandably. They're going to school all day. They have a job. They're not being given, I have to leave class to go pump or something along those lines. They're not able to bring their babies with them. And so then they're having, what a task to pump at school.
Mm-hmm.
To store it, to keep your parts clean, to have the bottle. It's asking quite a bit of somebody that's already going through quite a lot. And there's a lot of emotional stuff that goes with that. And we absolutely work with the ones who want to. It always makes my heart happy when I'm working with, any mom that says, this is difficult, but I want to do it, and then they're successful. But like one thing that I really liked in here where she talks about the definition of breastfeeding, and she includes if you're pumping and giving formula, you are still breastfeeding. Which I thought was like, okay, I love that inclusion where it says you're still doing all of this good because of, and I just feel like that is really encouraging to, the moms that I work with that they don't really have much of a choice. It's just the system's not set up for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I did, like whenever we go through all of this list of who all is being included, I feel like there are a lot of breastfeeding books out there that are like, they're talking about specifically putting baby to breast where the mother has milk.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many variations. It's like you can feed a baby at the breast with a supplementer and like mom doesn't have any milk and they're just getting formula from the supplementer, or they're getting donor milk, or they're exclusively pumping and baby is getting a bottle, but they're still getting breast milk. There are benefits to having baby to breast, and then there's also the benefits of the milk. And they do like doing either of those things are going to, like, depending on what your goals are going to give you different benefits and can guide your journey.
Right. And I feel like the exclusion of that makes it to where people, words matter, feeling included matters. We're human beings. That's how we are. And there's a lot to be said about encouraging somebody through your language to say, every single time you're latching baby, every single bit of breast milk that you're giving baby is awesome. And just saying, like, we're going to celebrate every victory and we're not going to focus on, because you're supplementing or because you're buying donor milk or whatever, that you're not breastfeeding. How demoralizing,
Yeah, it's like I love that all of these situations are included in her definition of breastfeeding, and especially in the topic of this book, when you're talking to adoptive mothers, maybe even just, I mean, wet nurses, like if a grandmother may want to relactate to help nurse their grandchild.
Mhm.
And that's such a cultural thing too. Like, I think that's
Oh,
I'm for
we
it.
need to do it.
I'm for it. I also, there's a term I'd never heard before in this book, and it's like pre-birth mother. And so it was like the sense of like the surrogate or the birth mother, but like they're saying it in like a legality way because the pre-birth mother, while they're pregnant, had like their rights and their involvement. I was like, I never heard that word before, but like
Yeah.
I like that, and I think birthing person kind of encompasses that too. But I had never heard that term before, and I like that was included in this book.
Yeah, I like that there's such a different list of terms to choose from, because there's people that really do get offended if you call them a birthing person. You sort of be able to choose other terms.
Yeah.
And as specific words get stigmatized, like the word surrogate is getting stigmatized in a lot of circles, then, maybe being able to say like pre-birth mother or things like that.
Or if they don't want to identify as a mom,
then we can say just surrogate, and
surrogate
there's so
or
many
birthing
different,
person, absolutely.
yeah, so many different options for people that then they feel comfortable with, and so they get to decide, and other people can understand. Which is why we need to read these books and understand. We're not going, what on earth is a pre-birth mother?
Yeah.
Especially as birth workers, we need to know what that means.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to hit on because not everyone understands the difference between like relactating and inducing lactation.
Okay.
Because we're going to be using those terms. So inducing lactation would be if you have never like given birth to a baby and it's been a very long time. That would be considered like inducing lactation. Whereas relactating is you gave birth, you started out lactating and maybe something didn't work, and then you are trying to get your milk back for that same baby.
Okay. So what would you use as a defining very long time?
So if you're not inducing lactation for the baby that you most recently gave birth to, could basically be that defining factor. So if it was a grandmother inducing lactation for the grandchild, or you had babies but you are wanting to induce lactation to be a wet nurse for a sister's baby.
Which is really cool to do, by the way. My sisters and I nurse each other's children, and it's very helpful, and it's bonding with the baby, and it really, it's like there's a whole sense of camaraderie when the whole family is able to feed whatever baby is upset, and you can sleep.
Yeah.
You can go to bed, and your baby can get fed breast milk from the breast, and then you wake up and you're like, oh man, my turn eating. And then you go nurse the oldest baby.
Yeah. Who's hungry?
So somebody wants milk right now.
At all times, let's be real.
I mean, honestly, I'm going slightly off topic here, but like when you're tandem nursing, you have like that same sort of deal going on. Like that the baby decided to sleep longer than usual, and it's like, okay, big sis, come over here, I need your help.
This is uncomfortable, please remove.
So funny. I had a friend that her and her 3 friends, they all had kids around the same age, and so when they would go on outings, it was just like, pick up kid, whichever one.
Yeah, whoever's hungry, whoever's doing this gets fed.
Yeah. They had like an agreement
Mm-hmm.
and then same standard on when it came to like alcohol. So
yeah, you need to trust the people that you're allowing to feed your baby for sure.
Yeah. definitely there are contraindications to breastfeeding as well.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting when they covered that when talking about when a foster mother may choose to breastfeed and the pros and cons of that, even just like of socially being acceptable or not.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you're a placeholder, in between homes of
Yeah.
that intimate of a relationship. I thought that was really awesome that she talked about that in the book.
Yeah, yes, it was
I feel
very.
like it was mentioned, but did she go into it deeply? Like, because like she talked more about like those in the adoption process already.
She covered it briefly
Yeah,
in
she
like
has,
the little
like,
box on
this-
page 14 and 15.
There was, can't believe I didn't highlight it. There was something in here about there are the research has shown that a child is better able to form an attachment to a new caregiver when she has already experienced a secure attachment with a caregiver than when she has experienced no attachment with a prior caregiver. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that there is so much. There could be like potential for so much taboo in terms of with foster care. So my mom's a foster parent, and I know just from even just like small things where it's like some of my sisters, it's like you want to dye their hair, and that's not that big of a deal, right? Like in terms of, is it taboo or not? But I think that like some of those parents who still have rights to their babies or whatnot could get potentially very upset by someone else breastfeeding their child. And it is still technically like they're in the foster care system. You still have their baby, so their baby. Yeah. But it's just one of those like I think you'd have to have some serious understanding and you would hate to do it in secret. Like that's not good transparency between people that are caring for a child.
Yeah, I feel like that would be difficult to hide as well.
Yeah.
Because like breastfed babies.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are signs.
Yeah. I think that would be a hard one for me personally to wrap my head around like what situation it might be. Maybe it is like a sister fostering, and it's not that big of a deal. But
Or maybe the mom really wants her baby to have breast milk.
Yeah.
Totally. Absolutely. Like you never know like what the situation is unless you like discuss it out to So it'd be interesting to like what situation where it would be like foster mom is already lactating, maybe she has a baby at home, but also is fostering, maybe that, and then I could see that potentially making sense, but it would have to be a really specific situation. Yeah, for everyone to be comfortable.
Yeah, I feel like it would be kind of difficult, like if you weren't already lactating, like, and you're a foster parent, and if you're like, unless you're like regularly being like a home for young babies, like getting your milk supply prepared for a baby that you don't know is coming necessarily.
Yeah, it's pretty last minute a lot of times. They call, they need help, and baby's at your door pretty quickly. That's what, with our mother's closet, foster parents will come and say, I had this child show up and all they had was what they were wearing, and so then we're able to get them what they need. But I mean, they didn't have time to go shopping and prepare, let alone spend the time and effort that it takes to lactate. So for a lot of people, that wouldn't even be an option, especially if you're like a respite. Respite. Foster parent. That's when you've only read a word.
Did anybody have anything else from like the introduction that stood out to them?
Support network. page 18 and starts talking about the importance of building a support network. I thought that was a really good point. When you are surrounded by people who are breastfeeding and it's normalized and other people have knowledge to help support you and encourage you, that's going to be very different than trying to do it in a situation where that's not the case.
Yeah. I would have specific topics going into depth on that that's in chapter 2.
Awesome.
So for chapter 1, we start talking about what benefits there are to breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
And this is tying back some to how she defined who she's talking to in this situation, because this is not like your typical list of what you see in like most places of what are the benefits of breastfeeding. What stands out to me is that, and what I really like is that she starts going in depth about the attachment. Like with adoptive parents, they may not be able to induce a full milk supply. So, or maybe they only have very little milk supply. So putting the importance of the attachment as the forefront can be really beneficial for managing their expectations. If they're expecting that their foremost benefit is going to be developing this attachment instead of all of the benefits of the milk, then they're meeting their goals right off the bat. Whenever you've worked with clients who are planning to breastfeed, have you ever needed to or they were considering breastfeeding but they didn't know for sure? Have you ever had to provide information on like the pros and cons of breastfeeding? How do you kind of tailor your information to the client?
Yeah, all the time. This comes up quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna depend. So like coming back to, my teen moms, and I was just this last Tuesday doing a newborn care class where we were covering breastfeeding in depth because 3 of my students were not producing at the level that they wanted to, and they wanted to get to exclusively breastfeeding, which is, I'm so excited for them, and so we were covering it from a standpoint of someone who's going to school, of someone who's going to school and work because they're trying to gain their independence as a parent. What does that look like? It's a lot of pumping. It's a lot of tools that can be used. A lot of this is how you bottle feed in a way that is going to support breastfeeding. Is the benefits of doing that. Like switching baby from one side to the other for their development properly. Of a correct suction, as they're nursing. And this is why that's going to be really important for their tongue development, for learning to talk, for the jaw formation, and the more information that they get, you can just see their faces getting more and more determined, where they were thinking, this is something I wanted to do to bond with my baby because I don't get to see them very much, to I'm doing this because a lot of these moms want their baby to have a better life than they did, right? And they're intentionally choosing to have these babies, and the more that they can do to give them a better start in life, they're just very determined to do so. Strongest people in the world, I swear. And so that looks different than when I'm working with a mom who is able to stay home all day with her baby. And the conversation is a lot less of what are the laws around having to give you a space to pump that's private. That you can lock, where you are actually required as often as you need. It's not even like a set. So it's a lot less law talk and pump talk. And, for some people, it is a lot of pump talk. Just depending on, why is the conversation coming up? And it's going to be different if they're pregnant or if they have already given birth and maybe baby went to the NICU, what kind of separation might have happened, if they had oral ties that got fixed and then that interrupted, what caused the interruption. Do they have a partner? Is that partner supportive? Is it the partner that wants them to breastfeed and not them? I mean, there's a lot of tailoring that goes into conversations. There's so much, and that's like not even close to an example. Just probably one that's long enough that people are like, yeah, we get
it. No, definitely. There is so much tailoring that needs to be had with any breastfeeding conversation because there's just like so much information. And whenever you're dealing with new moms and also that are like in a state of overwhelm or maybe they're experiencing postpartum mood disorders, and just like the regular just change in how and brain chemistry that happens whenever you have a baby, you have a hard time retaining instructions. So it really needs to be very focused on what they need to do now, or very close to now, not going like super far into the future. Or, well, if this happens, then do this, and if this happens, do that. So it's like
I mean, goal setting is probably as much future because I feel like if you don't have a vision for why in the future of like, maybe my goal is to only pump when I want to because I want to go out to dinner or something. You know, that's my goal. But right now, to feed my baby, I'm needing to pump multiple times a day. And this is the reason why we're trying to latch and pump. You know, we're learning. This is why we're doing the suck training. This is why, and if we don't have that goal that we talk about every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while, just like celebrate the small things, and then say, look, we're getting closer to this goal. But other than that, I don't talk about the future.
Well, I mean, like the goal setting is something that really needs to happen in order to give any real guided advice. Like, if a mom is wanting to exclusively pump and give baby bottle, and then you come in and start talking about, well, how about we try bringing baby breath, and that's not what she wants, then
that's so disrespectful.
So it's like
we're scaring them. They might all of a sudden like bringing up thrush, and it's like we're not even worried about it.
Oh my gosh.
It's scaring them for like no reason.
And you have people who, I mean, scaring them for no reason. You have all these people coming out and it's like, well, I was like, I really hope you're going to be successful. I couldn't be. I could never do that.
And can we just expand that to all things motherhood?
Oh, for sure.
Good luck with that. I don't feel like you meant that.
I was like on the side of a conversation the other day. I was like, what is happening? It was like a train wreck, you know, like you couldn't stop watching. Someone was talking about she's like, I chose before having a baby, I didn't want to breastfeed, and that was like it was very important for me. And this other person was like really digging in on them. And then the first person was like, no, I needed to get back on my medication. Like this was going to be the best choice for me and my baby. And I was like, oh my God, like, let's just back up, because I was like, that's this, you don't know the situation for like second person, like, just,
oh my gosh. Like everybody is aware, you know?
Like there are reasons.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everyone has their own reasons to choose what they want to do.
And it's not our business to make other people share those with us.
No.
You know, for us, as their doulas or birth workers, lactation, whatever position that we're in their lives, they've asked us to come help.
And these are people I didn't.
But it's like
the unsolicited advice.
The unsolicited, don't do that. And then when we are out and about in public, we do not give unsolicited advice. My joke is like, no, you have to pay me for that. That's my joke. That's my joke.
It's actually 50 cents a character.
It's a character. If I'm going to be giving you unsolicited advice, like, I'm expensive. I don't just do it just for
Makes me
anybody.
think of like the tourist traps where they put a bracelet on your hand and they're like talking to you and they're like, okay, now give me money.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But we just had a mini consultation right now. I have my square reader and first.
Oh my gosh.
I meant
so
the
bad.
opposite. Of like, I don't give unsolicited advice, and the joke is the reason that I don't is because you'd have to pay me for it. But I can see where you're going with that. Way.
Contract.
Back on track. That was a long tangent.
No.